Early morning sunlight filtered slowly through tall, narrow windows into the wide, echoing school hallway, casting long beams of golden warmth across the cold, gray tile floor where she stood completely alone. Her dark brown hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, each strand catching a sliver of light as she tucked a loose lock behind her ear with deliberate care. The lockers on both sides of the corridor were painted a bright sky blue, their metal doors reflecting patches of light like scattered pieces of glass. She adjusted the worn leather straps of her backpack, breathing in the faint scent of polished wood from the classroom doors ahead. Tiny bruises dotted her knuckles and the sides of her palms, pale reminders of last week's fight that faded beneath her calm expression. A loud click echoed as Sienna, the school bully, strode around the corner in scuffed black boots that sent harsh sounds down the empty hall. Sienna's tall frame filled the hallway as she marched forward with heavy steps, her eyes locked on the smaller girl standing by the lockers. Leah lifted her chin and met Sienna's glare with steady, unblinking eyes that gave nothing away. A handful of students peeked from classroom doorways, their whispers floating behind them like nervous shadows. Sienna folded her arms over her chest and tilted her head, a cruel smirk twisting her lips as she blocked Leah's path. Leah's heart drummed quietly in her chest, but she did not step back or lower her gaze. The pale light from overhead fluorescent bulbs flickered once, as if unsettled by the tension between them. Leah glanced down at a fallen notebook on the floor, her fingers brushing the smooth leather cover before she closed it with a soft snap. Sienna leaned closer, her breath hot with mockery as she whispered cruel words meant to shame and scare. Leah listened without a flinch, her body still and composed like a statue carved from marble. A lone pencil rolled under Sienna's foot and stopped at Leah's shoe, its yellow paint chipped at the tip. Sienna kicked the pencil back toward Leah with a sharp flick, sending it to clatter against the opposite locker. Leah bent calmly at the waist to pick it up, then straightened without haste and handed it back as if returning a forgotten key. The sudden quiet in the hallway felt heavy, as though the air itself awaited what would happen next. Sienna's smirk faded into a frown of confusion and annoyance at Leah's unshaken composure. Leah's eyes flicked to the small crowd now gathered several feet away, their faces pale with curiosity and fear. She could feel their unspoken question hanging in the air. What made her so unafraid? Sienna took a step back and crossed her arms again, raising one eyebrow as she studied Leah's calm stance. Leah shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her movements smooth and deliberate as she waited. The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead, a gentle sound that contrasted sharply with the pounding of Sienna's heartbeat. Sienna's gloved hand shot out and pushed Leah roughly against the lockers, metal doors rattling under the impact. Leah's back pressed against the cold metal, but she did not cry out or wince. Instead, she stood straighter. Sienna's grip tightened on Leah's shoulder, her fingernails digging into fabric and flesh with quiet force. Leah inhaled in a steady breath that seemed to draw strength from the silence around her. A faint click sounded from somewhere deep within the row of lockers, surprising everyone in the hallway. Sienna paused and looked around, her eyes wild with confusion as she released Leah's shoulder. Leah's lips curved in the slightest smile, a gesture so small it almost went unnoticed. The hum of electricity grew louder for a moment, vibrating through the metal locker doors. Leah raised one hand slowly toward a locker latch, her fingers hovering as if sensing a secret switch. Sienna frowned and took a hesitant step forward, her bravado slipping for the first time. Leah did not move her hand away, but let it hover calmly, her expression unreadable. The energy in the hallway shifted, electric and tense, as though the building itself held its breath. Sienna's eyes darted between Leah's hand and her steady face, searching for an explanation. Leah's free hand settled at her side, her posture relaxed as if she carried no fear at all. Without warning, a low humming sound began deep inside the locker, promising a secret more terrifying than anyone could imagine. Leah held her breath as the locker door creaked open on rusty hinges at her gentle touch, revealing a swirling storm of blue light that shimmered like moonlight on water, painting soft patterns on the tile floor and bouncing off the cold metal walls. The bright glow poured out in smooth waves that washed across the hallway tiles, creating shifting pools of light that danced like gentle waves in a silent ocean, while the painted lockers glowed with a soft, gentle warmth that offered comfort to trembling hearts. Students gasped and pressed themselves against the cool locker doors, their eyes wide as the strange light climbed up onto their faces and made their shadows stretch long across the hall, turning the familiar corridor into something magical and new, as though they had stepped through a hidden door into a wonderland they never knew existed. Sienna stumbled backward as the glow swept around her boots, her usual confident stride faltering as she stared at the light that seemed to move with a life of its own, as if it were a creature born of hope and fear at once. Leah reached inside the locker with calm hands and closed her fingers around an object that pulsed softly in her palm, sending a gentle vibration up her arm like a hummingbird's wings brushing against her skin. A warm tingle traveled from her fingers up to her shoulder, carrying a soothing energy that made her chest feel full of a strange courage she had never known, as though someone had whispered brave words directly into her soul. She pulled the device free and held it up in both hands, guiding the light around like a curious child showing off a new toy, while the hallway grew still in awe of the silent display. Sienna's eyes widened until they seemed almost too large for her face, her usual cruel smirk gone as she stared at the bright orb floating above Leah's palms, its surface shifting with colors as soft as the sunset sky. The orb pulsed in time with Leah's heartbeat, each gentle pulse sending bright ripples of color out into the air like pebbles dropped into a still pond, leaving glowing trails that faded slowly into the soft glow around them. Leah's face glowed softly, her calm smile steady as she studied the object in her hands, its gentle hum filling her ears like a lullaby sung by unseen voices. Someone gasped that the glowing sphere looked like a tiny sun that could warm even the coldest heart, and a hush fell over the students who watched, their fear melting into wonder. Leah nodded once, her dark eyes shining brighter than the light itself, reflecting the soft colors and swirling patterns that made her look like a queen of light. The humming grew louder and deeper, filling the hallway with steady, musical rhythm that felt both comforting and thrilling, as though the whole building itself had awakened to join in a quiet, ancient song. Sienna's jaw dropped, and she swallowed hard, her bravado slipping away as she realized she faced something she could not control or understand. Leah lifted the orb higher above her head, careful not to let its power slip, and the light reached out to touch the walls and ceiling, drawing glowing lines that traced out shapes like ancient symbols etched in daylight. The warm aura wrapped around Leah like a soft blanket, making her feel weightless and brave at the same time, as if the orb itself was her shield against every fear in the world. The crowd took a cautious step forward, drawn by the gentle glow that seemed to call to their hearts. Their whispers hushed as they leaned closer to see the quiet power Leah held in her steady hands. Leah turned slowly and offered the orb to the gathered students like a gift, her posture calm and open, as she invited them to share in her wonder instead of hiding in fear. She spoke in a soft voice that carried through the hall like a breeze, saying, "This is my gift to protect and heal," and the orb pulsed brighter at her words. The light formed small orbs around the main sphere, dancing like friendly fireflies in a summer night, each one shining with its own gentle hue as it drifted lazily in the air. Sienna's eyes shone with tears she did not expect, her fierce glare replaced by a look of awe as she realized Leah held more than a simple trick in her hands. Leah kept her movements slow and steady, turning the orb in her palm as she spoke again. "No one should live in fear of me or anyone else," and each word seemed to make the light steadier. A teacher peeked from the doorway at the far end of the hall, clutching a stack of papers that shook in her trembling hand as she watched the unexpected scene unfold, her face pale with wonder and just a hint of anxiety. The hallway was silent except for the soft hum and the distant echo of students' breaths caught between wonder and relief, as though time itself paused to listen. Leah lowered the orb until the light washed over Sienna in a warm embrace, softening the harsh lines of her face and easing the tension in her shoulders, as though melting away the last of her anger and leaving room for peace. Sienna closed her eyes briefly, allowing the gentle warmth to soak into her being and dissolve the fear that had held her heart so tightly for so long. The colors inside the orb shifted through a rainbow of shades, from pale green to deep indigo, each change bringing a new sense of calm and curiosity to everyone watching. Leah spoke with quiet strength. "We all have a light inside that can chase away shadows," and the orb responded by shining brighter, as if it understood and agreed with her words, filling every heart in the hall with hope. The students felt hope flood into their chests, their heavy worries lifting as the glowing light reminded them that they were stronger together than apart. Leah placed the orb back inside the locker with gentle care, closing the door with a soft click that echoed like a promise of safety in the silent hall. The glow faded slowly until the hallway returned to its normal brightness, but the warmth in the air lingered like a faint smile left behind on every face. Sienna reached out and took Leah's hand in a simple act of friendship, her rough touch gentle now as she squeezed in thanks for showing them all the light within. Leah smiled back, her secret safe for now, knowing that the power she carried was not to frighten, but to bring people together and heal their broken parts. The students cheered softly, then louder as their voices rose in celebration, filling the hallway with laughter and clapping that sounded like a chorus of joy. Leah gave one last look at the closed locker and whispered to herself, "My secret will always be my strength," before turning away with Sienna by her side. The warm hum seemed to echo faintly from behind the metal door, as if the orb itself called out in a soft goodbye until it would be needed again on another day. The hallway felt forever changed now, as bright as a sunrise after a long, dark night, and the students knew they had witnessed something magical together that would stay with them long after the echoes of the glowing light had faded away. Leah walked down the corridor with steady steps, her head held high, and the crowd parted for her like waves giving way to a calm shoreline under a clear morning sky. Sienna matched her stride and whispered quietly, "I'm sorry for everything," and Leah simply nodded, her heart full of forgiveness and hope for what lay ahead. The next morning, Leah entered the brightly lit cafeteria with trays clattering and voices echoing around her, while she moved gracefully between the rows of tables with calm purpose. A hush fell briefly as students recognized her calm presence after yesterday's glowing light show, their curious eyes following her every step as if expecting magic again. Some friends waved shyly from behind their lunch trays, their burgers and apples momentarily forgotten as they whispered about the mysterious orb hidden behind the locker doors. Leah sat at her favorite wooden table near the windows, sunlight warming the polished surface as she placed her tray down with care and opened her sandwich wrapper slowly. She glanced at the clock mounted above the door, its ticking second hand a steady reminder that not all time moved as softly as the humming light did last night. Across the room, a group of students crowded around Sienna, who still seemed awed by Leah's secret power as if she could hardly believe what had happened in the hallway. One of them, a tall boy named Marcus, clapped Sienna on the back loudly and boasted to the others that he wished he had witnessed the light show firsthand instead of hearing secondhand stories. Leah lowered her sandwich and looked up casually, offering a small smile, though she felt the weight of her secret deep inside her chest like a hidden stone. Suddenly, Marcus stood up, his tray tipping with sandwiches and juice cups sliding dangerously toward the floor as he strode across the room. He plucked Leah's tray from the table with a mocking grin and flipped it onto the tiled floor, sending food scattering in a messy cloud of bread and lettuce. Gasps rose from the students around, and a few chairs scraped harshly on the floor as classmates jumped to their feet, alarmed by the sudden chaos. Leah remained seated, her eyes fixed on the spilled meal with calm detachment, as if the mess did not concern her in the slightest. Marcus laughed cruelly and kicked a sandwich toward Leah's feet, as though testing how far she would let him humiliate her before reacting. Leah reached out one hand slowly toward the puddle of spilled juice, and the liquid froze instantly in midair, solid bright blue like a crystal lake paused in time. Gasps turned into screams of shock and awe as the cafeteria lights flickered and the frozen juices glimmered under the overhead bulbs like rows of ice sculptures. Marcus's grin vanished, replaced by uncertainty and a flicker of fear as he realized Leah had used her secret power with just a gesture of her fingers. She stood and let the frozen juice shatter gently into harmless crystals, then let the shards melt back into puddles that vanished into the floor as if they had never been there. Leah collected her tray carefully and set it back on the table, wiping her hands on her jeans with dignity as Marcus stared at her in stunned silence. The other students parted around her like a river splitting around a steady rock, their eyes wide and their voices hushed with wonder and respect. Marcus swallowed hard and stammered an apology, his face pale as he took a cautious step toward Leah, holding out his hand to help pick up the fallen tray. Leah accepted his hand with a nod, and together they lifted the tray and placed it gently back on the table, restoring order with quiet grace. A few students scattered to help, picking up spilled sandwiches and paper towels while whispers filled the room like ripples on calm water. Leah turned to the small group and said softly, "No one should ever feel powerless," and her words floated over the clatter like a soothing melody. The entire cafeteria seemed to pulse with a soft warmth as Leah's quiet compassion spread through the crowd, easing tension like sunshine chasing away clouds. Marcus's eyes burned with a new respect as he looked at Leah and realized there was more bravery than magic in every choice she made. A teacher hurried over, her eyes wide at the frozen juice display, now melted away, and she asked gently, "Leah, how did you do that?" in a voice as soft as a question whispered into the air. Leah shrugged and said plainly, "I protect people when they can't protect themselves," her calm words rooted in a strength no one could take away. Students nodded slowly, their heads bobbing like gentle waves on a still sea, as they digested the simple truth in Leah's statement. Sienna approached then, her usual tough posture softened as she offered Leah a folded paper napkin with a shy smile, and said, Thank you for defending us yesterday. Leah nodded and accepted the napkin, feeling a warm glow from her friend's gratitude that shone brighter than any orb she held. The bell rang, its clear chimes slicing through the hushed buzz of the cafeteria and calling students to their next classes like a promise of routine. Leah stood and gathered her tray, glancing around at the faces full of admiration and trust, knowing that her secret had changed the school forever. As she walked toward the exit, Marcus fell in step beside her and said in a low voice, "You're more than a secret weapon. You're our friend." Leah looked at him with surprise and a genuine smile, her dark eyes reflecting the afternoon light that streamed through the windows. Outside the cafeteria doors, the hallways seemed brighter and quieter at the same time, as if the school itself was breathing easier under a new understanding. Leah pressed her hand to the wall near the door, feeling the gentle hum of hidden power waiting patiently behind the metal surface just like yesterday. She whispered, "I'll always be here to protect you," and the locker behind her glowed faintly as if answering her promise with a silent agreement. Marcus glanced at the row of lockers with wide eyes, then nodded solemnly as though he recognized a pact made in silence between Leah and the hidden light. The afternoon sunlight warmed Leah's face as she turned the hallway corner, her steps light and confident like a hero who had found her purpose. And deep within the lockers, the orb lay waiting with its steady hum, ready to shine again whenever Leah chose to reveal its terrifying secret once more. The next afternoon, during gym class, Leah entered the echoing basketball court where the bright overhead lights gleamed on the polished wooden floor as she laced up her sneakers with steady fingers, ready for the drills ahead. The coach's sharp whistle cut through the hum of conversation, signaling everyone to take positions by the painted center circle where orange balls lay, waiting like silent sentinels. Leah moved with calm confidence, weaving through the cones set for dribbling practice, her fingers whispering against the leather of the ball in a steady rhythm that sounded almost like a heartbeat. Sienna stood on the sideline, arms crossed and brow furrowed, watching Leah's smooth footwork and controlled turns as though she were trying to memorize every step of a dance. "Remember," the coach called, "keep your eyes up and your moves sharp," and the gym rang with the echo of bouncing basketballs and classmates' enthusiastic shouts. Leah nodded and rose to her feet, her dark hair tied back so no strand would fall into her eyes as she sprinted toward the first cone with measured, graceful strides. She tapped the cone with her dribble ball and pivoted on one foot, sending the ball in a soft arc to the next station where she caught it without breaking her stride. Students cheered quietly as Leah completed the circuit flawlessly, her calm focus shining brighter than any spotlight in the gym. Sienna stepped forward next, her usual swagger replaced by a hesitant step as she watched Leah's effortless control and wondered what secret made her movement so sure. With a deep breath, Sienna kicked off toward the cones, but her dribble wavered and the ball slipped away, rolling to a stop under Leah's poised gaze. Instead of ignoring it, Leah paused mid-stride, bent and scooped up the errant ball, then dribbled it back to Sienna with a gentle toss that landed precisely at her teammate's feet. A hush fell over the gym as Sienna blinked in surprise, then nodded in thanks and resumed the drill with unexpected care, her shoulders a little straighter than before. The coach blew his whistle and organized the class into pairs for passing practice, and Leah found herself paired with Sienna at the center line. They faced one another, each holding a basketball, the polished floor between them reflecting the bright court lights like a mirror. "Let's see 30 clean passes, no fumbles," the coach called out, and the gym filled with the taps and thumps of leather on leather as balls flew back and forth. Leah and Sienna started slowly, trading soft, precise passes that grew stronger and faster as they found their shared rhythm, their hands guiding the ball in smooth curves. Pass number 10 clicked sharply, and pass 20 glided perfectly across the line, their confidence growing with each successful exchange. By pass 25, Leah noticed that Sienna had stopped blinking nervously and was matching Leah's pace, their teamwork becoming seamless like two halves of a single mind. When they reached 30, the coach's whistle blew twice, and he laughed with genuine pleasure at their teamwork, calling the rest of the class to observe the pair's flawless coordination. Leah and Sienna shared a quick smile, a bond forming between them as solid as the hardwood beneath their feet. Next, the coach set up a shooting drill, instructing students to stand at the free throw line and sink a basket in under 10 seconds. Leah stepped to the line calmly, positioning her feet shoulder-width apart and her hands cupping the ball with quiet authority. She bent her knees and launched the ball in a smooth arcing motion that carried it through the net with a soft swish, drawing applause from classmates and coaches alike. Sienna cheered louder than anyone, clapping with bright eyes as she watched Leah's flawless shot, her own earlier doubts melting away in the warmth of genuine admiration. The coach then invited Sienna to take her shot, and she approached the line with a determined nod, focusing on her rim as though it were the only thing in the world. Sienna released the ball with firm confidence, and though it rattled the rim, it still fell through, securing her own small victory and a cheer from everyone watching. Leah gave Sienna a thumbs up and a friendly grin, and Sienna's cheeks flushed with pride at the shared moment of success. For the final drill, the coach asked for a relay race around the court, each student dribbling to half court and back, then tagging the next player. Leah stood at the ready in the front of her team's line, her breathing steady as she waited for the signal, her heart calm and strong. When the whistle blew, she dashed forward, dribbling with confidence, her shoes squeaking softly on the floor as she rounded the center cone and sprinted back. She tagged Sienna's hand gently, and Sienna took off in a burst of speed, the ball staying glued to her hands as she weaved through the cones. Laughter and cheering filled the gym as the teams raced neck and neck, the energy buzzing through the air like a swarm of excited fireflies. Sienna's steps faltered slightly near the finish, but Leah called encouragement from the sidelines, reminding her to focus and keep her pace. Sienna's eyes locked on Leah's as she crossed the line, and she grinned, her earlier fear replaced by a bold confidence she had never felt before. The coach called time and congratulated both teams on their effort and teamwork, praising Leah and Sienna for leading by example with respect and skill. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of gym period, students gathered their water bottles and towels, chatting excitedly about the drills and the way the pair had inspired them all. Leah and Sienna walked off the court side by side, their shoulders brushing in a quiet sign of friendship forged through shared challenge and newfound trust. Outside the gym doors, the late afternoon sun warmed the courtyard as the two girls joined their classmates moving toward the next class, their laughter mingling in the gentle breeze. Leah paused at the threshold and placed her hand against the cool metal frame of the door, sensing the faint hum of the orb waiting in its hidden locker like a faithful guardian. With a gentle nod to Sienna, Leah whispered, "Whenever you need me, I'll be here," and the orb pulsed softly in answer, its glow a silent promise of protection and friendship. During the following week, Leah and Sienna studied quietly at a library table piled high with textbooks on mythology, physics, and ancient symbols, hoping to understand the glowing orb's hidden history. The library's tall windows let in soft afternoon light that danced across the pages of open books, casting long shadows on the polished wooden floor, as the girls flipped through pages filled with strange diagrams. Leah ran her finger along a faded image of an orb similar to hers drawn in an old manuscript, her eyes widening at a caption that read, "Light of the Ancients, Keeper of Hearts." Sienna leaned closer, adjusting her glasses as she read aloud a passage describing how the light of the ancients could heal wounds and reveal truths hidden in darkness. Their whispered conversation drifted through the quiet stacks, mixing with the gentle hush of pages turning and the soft footsteps of librarians patrolling the aisles. Leah held her orb under the table, hidden in her sweater pocket, feeling its gentle hum resonate with each new discovery made in the dusty tomes. A librarian approached and placed a finger to her lips in a silent reminder that this was a place of study, then moved on to check on another student. Leah glanced at Sienna and smiled, grateful for her friend's help and eager to learn more about the power she carried. Sienna tapped a pencil against her notebook as she wrote down every clue, her handwriting neat and precise, determined not to miss a single detail. Leah pointed to a paragraph that mentioned a secret ritual needed to awaken the orb's full power, involving words sung in a forgotten language at dawn. Sienna bit her lip and whispered, "We should try it tomorrow morning before school, when the halls are empty and the world is quiet." Leah nodded, her heart fluttering with excitement and a hint of nervousness at the idea of performing a ritual at the break of day. They closed the heavy books gently and packed them into their backpacks, careful to leave every volume exactly as they found it. The library doors swung open with a soft creak as the girls stepped into a corridor lined with bulletin boards covered in colorful flyers and student art. Leah felt her orb vibrate slightly in her pocket as if agreeing with every choice she made, ready to guide her to its true purpose. Sienna glanced around at their curious classmates milling in the halls and lowered her voice. "No one else can know about this until we're sure what it means." Leah nodded in agreement, her dark eyes steady and kind, reflecting the trust she had in Sienna's promise to protect her secret. The next morning before sunrise, Leah slipped out of her front door and crept across her lawn, the grass cool beneath her bare feet as she headed toward the empty school grounds. Sienna met her at the side entrance wearing a backpack filled with candles, chalk, and a small portable speaker with recordings of the ancient words they had practiced. Together they moved to a row of lockers bathed in pale dawn light, and Leah placed the orb on the ground while Sienna drew chalk symbols around it in a perfect circle. Leah opened the orb's locker lid and set the glowing sphere inside the chalk ring, while Sienna arranged candles and set the speaker on a low marble shelf. The candles flickered softly as Sienna pressed play on a recording, filling the silent halls with a strange melody of words that sounded like the wind whispering through leaves. Leah closed her eyes and sang along softly, her clear voice echoing in the empty corridor as the orb pulsed in rhythm with every syllable. The chalk symbols glowed faintly under the candle's light, and the orb's hum grew louder, shaking the metal lockers like a quiet rumble before a storm. A circle of pale blue light shot up from the orb and traced the chalk patterns, making them shine as though carved from ice that caught the first light of morning. Leah opened her eyes and gasped at the beauty of the awakening ritual, the orb's glow showing hidden runes etched on the locker sides that had been invisible before. Sienna touched one of the runes and felt a warm tingle spread through her fingers, realizing they had unlocked a new layer of the orb's power together. The orb's light filled the locker row and spilled into the hallway, but no one came to investigate, as though the building itself respected the ancient magic. Leah placed her hand on the orb and felt her memories of fear and loneliness vanish, replaced by a deep sense of belonging and purpose. Sienna stepped forward and laid her hand on Leah's shoulder, sharing in the warmth and quiet power that flowed between them. The last word of the song echoed in the silent hallway, and the orb's glow settled into a steady, gentle pulsing like a heartbeat that belonged to the world itself. Leah picked up the orb and whispered, "Now we can help more people, not just protect ourselves," and the orb brightened softly in agreement. Sienna smiled with tears in her eyes and said, "We'll be the light this school needs," her voice strong with hope and promise. The first bell rang, its clear tone cutting through the soft glow and reminding them that it was time to return to class and keep their secret safe. Leah hid the orb back inside the locker and erased the chalk symbols carefully so no trace of the ritual remained for others to find. Together they closed the locker, the metal door clicking shut like a book's cover ending a chapter, and the glowing light dimmed to a warm whisper inside. The girls headed toward their classrooms as the sun rose fully, bathing the halls in golden warmth like a new beginning for everyone who walked there. Leah and Sienna exchanged a glance filled with excitement and determination, knowing that they were guardians of something that could change lives. As they joined the crowd of students filing into homeroom, Leah felt the orb humming softly in her backpack, a secret companion ready for the next adventure. And somewhere deep inside the school's old walls, the ancient power they had awakened awaited their call, ready to shine its terrifying secret whenever it was truly needed. That afternoon, Leah and Sienna walked to the soccer field, the grass bright green under the warm sun as players chased the ball across the open turf. Sienna carried the orb carefully in her backpack, its gentle hum pulsing like a soft heartbeat as they found an empty bench by the sideline. Leah scanned the field, her eyes following the ball as it rolled between cleats and goalposts far down the pitch. A loud cheer rose when Marcus scored a goal, his teammates jumping in celebration as the crowd clapped and whistled. Suddenly, a stray ball flew toward a group of younger students standing too close to the sidelines, their faces turning pale as they froze in surprise. The children looked unsure whether to dodge or try to catch the speeding ball headed straight at them. Without a second thought, Leah stepped forward, her heart steady and her mind focused on keeping everyone safe. She reached into her backpack and gently pulled out the glowing orb, careful not to draw too much attention from the game. The orb brightened in her hands, sending a soft light that stretched toward the airborne soccer ball. Time seemed to slow as the orb pulsed, lifting the ball upward and guiding it safely away from the younger students. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the ball floated past the children and landed softly in front of the coach. The coach rushed over, his whistle forgotten, eyes wide with astonishment as he saw the glowing sphere. Leah held the orb close, its warmth spreading through her fingers and filling her with calm confidence. Sienna stood beside her, beaming with pride at how gently Leah used the orb's power to protect her friends. The coach bowed his head in respect and said quietly, "Thank you for watching over them." Leah nodded, her secret safe but shared in that moment of gratitude. After the game, students gathered around Leah and Sienna, curiosity shining in their eyes. Leah explained softly, "The light helps me guard anyone in danger." Some students looked at the orb with fear, but most saw kindness in Leah's calm smile. Sienna squeezed Leah's hand, showing her support as they stood together. The principal arrived, his steps measured as he approached the group with thoughtful eyes. He asked Leah and Sienna to see him in his office after school, a promise to keep their secret safe. Leah agreed, her heart steady as she followed the principal down the hall. Inside his office, walls lined with books and trophies told stories of the school's past achievements. The principal sat behind his desk and folded his hands, saying, "You both have a gift that can help many." Leah placed the orb on his desk, where it glowed softly under the office lamp. He suggested they form a small circle of trusted friends to help watch over the school. Sienna's eyes lit up, and Leah felt excitement bloom at the thought of sharing her secret with close allies. The principal warned them to use the orb's power only in true emergencies. Leah promised to protect, never to frighten or harm, and Sienna nodded in agreement. The principal smiled and poured them each a glass of water from a pitcher on his desk. They thanked him and stepped out into the hallway, feeling both hopeful and responsible. Down the corridor, the orb pulsed faintly through Leah's backpack like a quiet guide. Leah remembered the ritual that had unlocked the orb's power and felt its magic deepen within her. She realized that with great power came the duty to help others whenever they needed it. Sienna whispered, "We will protect everyone," and Leah nodded, her confidence shining. As they walked back to class, sunlight through the windows caught the orb's glow through the fabric of Leah's bag. Their classmates fell into step behind them, inspired by the promise of safety and unity. Leah's heart swelled with the knowledge that her terrifying secret could become a force for good. And deep inside the school's walls, the orb lay waiting with its gentle hum, ready to shine whenever Leah chose to reveal its power again. That evening after classes ended, Leah, Sienna, Marcus, Amina, and Jake quietly returned to the science lab, their footsteps echoing in the cool, empty room as they gathered once more around the softly glowing orb on the wooden workbench. The door closed behind them with a faint click, and the only sound in the lab was the gentle hum of the orb, filling the space with a quiet energy that made their hearts feel steady and brave. Amina brushed back a loose strand of hair and spread an old schematic on the table, its faded lines showing hidden passages in the school that they had not yet explored. Jay pointed to a marked symbol near the auditorium, explaining that it might open a secret staircase leading down to forgotten tunnels beneath the school's stone foundation. Leah nodded and laid her hand gently on the orb, which pulsed in response as if it approved of their plan to search deeper for the light of the ancients. The orb's glow lit up the dusty glass jars on the shelves and made the clear test tubes sparkle like tiny stars in a darkened sky. Sienna stepped forward and cleared debris from a corner of the lab floor, revealing a small circular glyph etched into the tile that matched the symbol on their schematic. Marcus knelt and cleaned the glyph with his sleeve, and the orb's light reflected off it to reveal a faint inscription in the ancient language they were learning. Leah leaned close and read the words aloud in her calm voice, feeling power run through her fingers as the glyph glowed brighter under the orb's influence. The laboratory benches creaked as the tile panel shifted and sank, opening a narrow passage that smelled of old books and dust. Jay shined his pocket flashlight down the dark passage, and the beam showed stone walls lined with empty alcoves where lanterns once hung. Amina shivered at the cool air that rushed upward from the tunnel, but Leah squeezed her hand gently and smiled to show she was not afraid. They each lit small candles they had brought in their backpacks, placing them at the entrance so they would not lose their way in the darkness. Leah led the way, holding the orb high so its soft blue light mixed with a candle glow to guide them through the winding corridor. The walls of the passage were carved with ancient symbols and images that seemed to tell a story of guardians who had protected the school long ago. Sienna traced one carving of a shield with lightning bolts, marveling at the craftsmanship and how it matched the orb's bright pulses. Suddenly, Jay gasped and pointed ahead, where a stone door blocked their path, its surface smooth except for a carved lock in the shape of the orb itself. Leah set the orb against the carved lock, and the door trembled as the light seeped into its cracks before swinging open silently. Beyond the door lay a small chamber lit by shafts of moonlight through high windows, with a single pedestal at its center holding an ancient book bound in leather. Leah stepped forward and opened the book carefully, revealing pages written in flowing script that glowed faintly under the orb's light. The text described a final test of the light of the ancients, to use its power to bring hope to someone who had lost it completely. Amina swallowed and mentioned a classmate who had been left out of every group and sat alone each day in the cafeteria. Leah closed the book and whispered, "We must help them feel included again," and the orb pulsed warmly in agreement. The group left the chamber and retraced their steps back to the lab, carrying the book with them as they prepared for their mission. The next morning at recess, Leah spotted the lonely classmate sitting by the playground fence, head down and shoulders sagging under an invisible weight. Sienna gave Leah a reassuring nod, and Leah slipped the orb from her backpack, letting its glow wrap around the lonely child like a warm blanket. The child looked up in surprise as the orb's gentle light lifted their heart, making their eyes glisten with wonder and a small, grateful smile. Leah spoke softly. "You belong with us," and Sienna and the others approached, offering friendship and an invitation to join their circle. Their classmates watched in silence before a cheer rose up, welcoming the new friend with open arms and bright laughter. The lonely child stood tall, the orb's light reflecting in their eyes as they walked into the group, no longer invisible or alone. Marcus and Jay helped them onto the playground equipment, and the group played together like they had known each other for years. Leah watched with a calm heart, knowing they had passed the final test by using the orb's power to heal a broken spirit. The orb's glow faded to a gentle hum as they returned to class, its energy resting quietly until it was needed again. Amina recorded every detail in her notebook, ensuring the history of their secret mission will be preserved for future guardians of the light. Later that day, the principal found Leah and congratulated her, saying, "You have shown true courage and kindness beyond all else." Leah blushed and said, "The orb gives me strength, but friendship gives me purpose," and the principal smiled warmly in response. As the sun set, Leah, Sienna, Marcus, Amina, and Jay met one final time in the lab, closing the chamber door on their hidden adventure. Leah placed the ancient book and the orb back in the lab storage box, sealing it with a ribbon of chalk symbols to be opened only by true guardians. The group pledged to protect the school's light and to welcome anyone who felt lost or afraid, keeping their promise with quiet determination. Deep beneath the school's halls, the light of the ancients pulsed softly in its hidden chamber, ready for the next time its guardians needed its gentle power. As the final bell rang that afternoon, its crisp echo drifting through deserted corridors like a gentle reminder, Leah stepped into the silent hallway, where shafts of golden sunlight streamed through tall windows, splashing warm hues across the lockers. The floor tiles gleamed faintly beneath her feet, reflecting the soft light as dust motes drifted lazily in the air, and she ran a careful hand along the cool metal of a row of familiar lockers, remembering every secret moment shared there. Behind her, Sienna, Marcus, Amina, and Jay followed with quiet footsteps, their faces illuminated by the evening glow and their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they carried a power greater than any fear. Together they knelt before Leah's special locker, unlocking its secret panel with practiced precision and revealing the chalk circle etched into the floorboards beneath, its ancient symbols still faintly glowing from their last ritual. Leah lifted the orb gently from its velvet pouch, and its humming light enveloped them in a comforting warmth that felt like a promise whispered by the building itself, assuring them that they were never truly alone. They formed a close circle around the orb, squeezing one another's hands with silent encouragement, each heartbeat echoing in time with the soft pulsing of the light as they prepared for one final vow. Leah spoke softly, her voice carrying like a breeze through the empty hall. "With this ancient light, we promise to guard every heart that feels lost or afraid, to bring warmth to cold shadows, and to stand together in unity." Sienna nodded and added in a steady tone, "We will use this power wisely, sharing hope and kindness instead of fear, and protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Marcus and Jay echoed their pledge, their words ringing out clearly as they stared at the orb's glow, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on their shoulders, but also the thrill of belonging to something greater. Amina, her eyes bright with tears of excitement, touched the orb lightly and said, "I vow to learn all its secrets and help guide our circle with courage and compassion," and the orb blazed warmly in response. The chalk symbols beneath them flared brightly, and the orb's light traced each ancient rune, sealing their promise with a silent oath that resonated through the building's old bones. Leah carefully nestled the orb back into its velvet pouch, feeling its gentle warmth seep into her palm and reassure her that its power was safe in their hands. She then placed the pouch inside a hidden compartment within her backpack, tucking it beneath textbooks and notebooks so no stranger could ever find their secret treasure. The friends rose and wiped away the last traces of chalk dust from the corridor floor, revealing the polished tiles as though their ritual had been only a dream whispered in twilight. They tapped the locker 3 times in their special pattern, sealing the secret panel with quiet satisfaction before stepping back and letting the hallway return to its everyday silence. Leah paused at the row of lockers and pressed her ear against the metal, hearing the faint hum of the ancient light that lay hidden beyond, a comforting reminder that its power would always be there. The 5 of them walked slowly toward the school entrance, the echo of their steps mingling with the soft hum from Leah's backpack, weaving a hidden melody of friendship and promise. Outside, the campus lay deserted and bathed in the warm glow of sunset as shadows stretched long and peaceful, the gentle breeze carrying the distant sounds of chirping birds welcoming twilight. Leah and her friends paused beneath the old oak tree by the entrance, its broad branches silhouetted against the sky, and shared quiet smiles that spoke volumes of trust and loyalty. Sienna reached into her own bag and produced the small journal where they recorded every ritual, every promise, and every discovery, its pages filled with neat handwriting and tiny sketches of the orb. Leah opened the journal to the final blank page and wrote in flowing letters, "Guardians of the Light, bound by promise, united by hope," then closed the book with reverent care. Marcus and Jay each signed their names beneath the pledge, their handwriting bright and bold, marking the moment as a new beginning for both themselves and their school. Amina added a final note describing how the orb had healed fear and united hearts, ensuring that future guardians would remember the power of compassion. Leah tucked the journal into her backpack beside the velvet pouch, knowing that the words they had written would guide other brave souls when it was time to awaken the light of the ancients again. As the sky deepened into shades of lavender and rose, they said their goodbyes under the oak tree, each hugged tight and warm, sealing their friendship with shared secrets. Leah felt a tear of joy slip down her cheek, and Sienna brushed it away with a gentle finger, whispering, "You are never alone again. We stand with you always." Leah stood tall, her dark brown hair catching the last rays of light as she replied, "And you are my family, my strongest shield, and my brightest hope." They dispersed in different directions across the campus, walking toward their homes with lighter steps and fuller hearts than ever before. That night, Leah lay in bed and stared at the moonlight streaming through her window, imagining the orb's glow at rest in her bag, patiently waiting for its next guardians to call upon it. In her mind, she replayed every moment of their journey, the locker showdown, the healing light, the secret tunnels, and the final pledge that bound them as protectors. She whispered thank you to the ancient power, feeling its gentle hum echo inside her chest like a comforting heartbeat. In the quiet of her room, Leah drifted to sleep with a smile on her face, dreaming of glowing orbs lighting up classrooms and hallways, each one shining with hope. At dawn, she awoke with determination, knowing that her terrifying secret was no longer a burden, but a gift meant to brighten the world. Meanwhile, Sienna, Marcus, Amina, and Jay each began their days inspired by the promise they had shared, carrying hidden courage into every class and every hallway. In the following weeks, the school transformed in small but meaningful ways. A lonely student found friends, a frightened child stood tall, and laughter echoed where fear had once lingered. The teachers noticed the change and spoke of belonging and kindness, unaware that the light of the ancients quietly guided every act of compassion. Leah walked the halls with a secret smile, her dark eyes shining with quiet pride as she watched the school community grow stronger together. She knew that one day the orb might need to be awakened again, whether to heal a broken heart or to stand against a new threat lurking beyond their knowing. But for now, Leah and her friends remained vigilant, their promise sealed and their spirits united, ready to protect the light whenever it called to them. And deep within the hidden panel of Leah's locker, the orb lay silent and safe, its gentle hum waiting patiently for the next moment its ancient power would be needed to chase away shadows and ignite hope once more.